All right, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Go ahead, you guys, inshallah, greet each other. Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. I will be with you in just a few seconds. All right. Good to go. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Brothers and sisters, Brother Naufal, Sister Sayra, Sister Aya, Bassam is here, Sister Noreen, Zainab, Faraz, Shano. Good to see you guys, mashallah. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward all of you for tuning in. By the way, you make a comment on Facebook, I'll get it. You make a comment on YouTube, I'll get it. Either way, inshallah. So more than welcome to wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Brother Fayaz, how you doing, man? Wa alaikum assalam, Jia. Sister Su'ad, alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Brother Walid, wa alaikum assalam. Good to see you guys, mashallah. Or wa alaikum assalam to Jannah using Brother Walid's account. Mashallah. How you doing, guys? I hope Brother Walid is also watching with you. All right, Rehan Meyer. Good to see you, Meyer. Always talk about you. Sayra, mashallah. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Isyaq and Brother Faruq, wa alaikum assalam. Good to see you guys, mashallah. By the way, if you see someone you know here and you haven't seen them in a while, this is your chance. Go like their comment and say something and say, hey man, how you doing? I haven't seen you in a while. This is Shazia, mashallah. How are you guys? Jazakumullah khairan for tuning in, you guys, for another episode of our Ramadan khatira series this year, titled Messages from the Divine. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us among His worthy worshippers that receive the signs of His blessings and grace. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to send us His forgiveness, His afu, His love in this month of Ramadan. Allahumma ameen. Wa alaikum assalam, Brother Hassan, I miss you. Saqib, Lina, Sister Lina, wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Brother Sami, wa alaikum assalam. Brother Talha, Sister Layla, mashallah. Jazakumullah khairan, you guys. May Allah bless you. Sister Rasha, wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. It's a pleasure to see all of you guys. Wa alaikum assalam, Brother Ahmad. May Allah reward you and bless you. Ramadan Mubarak to you. Jazakumullah khair. And Brother Tyre, mashallah, I love you, man. Sister Sayra, may Allah bless you. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Good to see you guys. Brother Muhammad Omar Khan, mashallah, alaikum assalam. How you doing? A lot of beautiful people here, mashallah. I'm so blessed to see all of you guys, at least on the screen every night. I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that I'll be able to see you all soon in our masjid, inshallah. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. Let's go ahead, inshallah, and jump right into it. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. I begin in the name of Allah. I invoke His peace and blessings upon our beloved Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I ask Allah to extend His blessings to the Prophet's family and descendants, to his companions and followers, and the men and women that walk in the footsteps. And I ask Allah to make each and every one of us among them. Allahumma ameen. One of the common sayings in the Western world, especially post Renaissance, is that our greatest asset is the human mind. Our greatest asset is the human mind. It is the most important thing we possess. We are nothing without our minds. And with the same token, we also say that the human mind is all we need in order to resolve any problem, in order to get around any obstacle, in order to fix any issue in our existence. We just need this, right? We need to implement this. I want you to keep that in the backdrop as you go through this incredible Quranic story with me. Which is the surah that we Muslims are expected to recite every Friday? Okay? If you know the answer, please jump right ahead and type in the comments, inshallah. Again, the question is, which is the surah that we as Muslims, it's sunnah for us to recite this particular surah every Friday? Any answer from our brothers and sisters? Which surah do we recite every Friday? MashaAllah, I'm seeing some of the comments are coming in. This is common knowledge. I think every little child knows that. And if you don't know that, then maybe you need to ask your child, because they probably do through Sunday school, right? Jazakumullah khairan. Surah Al-Kahf. Surah Al-Kahf. Which is the other surah that we recite on an absolute regular basis? So Surah Al-Kahf we recite on a weekly basis. But what is the other surah that we recite even more frequently in our prayers on an absolute regular basis? Like if you don't recite it, like your salah is not accepted, right? Again, common knowledge. If you don't know this one, maybe you shouldn't be tuned in the first place. You need to go make an appointment, right? Because we have to talk about this, right? Jazakallah khair. Exactly, Surah Al-Fatiha. What is common between Surah Al-Fatiha and Surah Al-Kahf is that those two surahs bear lessons for us that we cannot live without, and it's necessary for us to keep hearing them on a regular basis, okay? And if they were not important for us every single day, or at least in the case of Surah Al-Kahf, every single week, then we would not be expected to recite them on a regular basis. But tonight's khatira is not about Surah Al-Fatiha. I'm not going to talk about why we have to recite it at least, whatever it is, 10 times every day, or God knows, 17 times every day. Okay. Tonight is about Surah Al-Kahf. Okay. So if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it sort of like a sunnah for us to recite Surah Al-Kahf every single Friday, then there has to be lessons in Surah Al-Kahf that are extremely, extremely important for us to remember and to think about and to consider every single week. Okay. What is Surah Al-Kahf? Surah Al-Kahf is a collection of incredible stories. Okay. The story of the youth of the cave is one. The story of the owners of the garden, right? The owners of the gardens is another. The story of Dhul Qarnayn, and his encounter with Ya'juj and Ma'juj, Gog and Magog. That's another story, right? But perhaps the most incredible, the most complex, the most layered story in Surah Al-Kahf is the one that I did not mention. Which one is the remaining story? The one that was between the Prophet and a really, really good guy who had a lot of knowledge, right? Which is that story? Bismillah, going once, going twice. I need someone at least to tell me which Prophet is included in that very, very complicated story, right? Who's going for it? Jazakallah khair. Sister Roxana picked this one up. Musa alayhi salam and Al-Khidr. What happened in that story? Let me tell you the background story. Jazakumullah khair, guys. Some of the sisters, they type very, very quickly, all right? So you need to work on your typing game, all right? So here's the background of Musa and Al-Khidr alayhi salam. So Musa alayhi salam was basically giving a speech once. And then after he was done with the speech, the audience was so mesmerized. They were so fascinated with how incredible the speech was, how eloquent the speech was. Okay, and it touched their hearts, it touched their minds. I mean, imagine Musa alayhi salam giving a speech in the Sinai to the Hebrews, right? Most incredible thing. To only be rivaled by the eloquence of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam al-Habib, So someone from his audience, from his congregation, stood up afterwards and he said to him, Ya Musa, man a'lamu ahli al-ard? Who is the most knowledgeable person on earth? Okay. Musa alayhi salam should have probably said, I don't know. But I don't think that his response was a reflection of arrogance, either, because Musa alayhi salam was a prophet of God, right? He was anything but arrogant. I think that, however, he asked himself and he said, well, I am the prophet of my time and I am the closest one to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So naturally, I think it's not that I'm full of myself or anything like that, but I think that I am the most knowledgeable person on earth. I mean, who else would it be if not the prophet that is receiving wahi directly from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Now, was Musa right or wrong? I don't think it matters. What matters is that what Musa alayhi salam did in that moment is that he used his mind and he used his rationality and he used his reason in order to make an assessment when in reality he did not have enough knowledge to make that assessment. He did not have an all-encompassing knowledge that is as absolute as the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make a sweeping judgment about the world, right? You cannot say that Musa that lives in what is, present day Palestine, in the middle of the ancient world, somehow knows every single person that lives on earth. What about South America? What about North America? What about Australia? You don't know, right? So if I don't have enough information, I should not use the immediate knowledge that I have and make a sweeping judgment about the world, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to teach Musa alayhi salam a lesson and teach us, those who sometimes put our minds on a pedestal, right? Teach us a great lesson. So he told him, I want you, the prophet of God, to go and to become a student. Never happened before, probably will never happen after. That a prophet of God needs to become a student of a layman, of another person that is not a prophet. I mean, by definition, a prophet is everyone's teacher. That's an incredible precedence. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tested his humility, and he wanted to teach the rest of us a lesson. He said, I want you to go and study with this man. I want you to travel into the south of Sinai. If you remember the map of the Red Sea, the Red Sea looks something like this, right? The Sinai is right here, the Mediterranean is right there, and this is the Red Sea. And these are the two gulfs, the Gulf of Aqaba and the Gulf of Suez. And the Sinai is the V in between. So the tip right there is where the two gulfs, the two seas touch each other, the juncture right here. So the sign was, go to the juncture of the two seas, according to most of the scholars, and carry with you a live fish in a bag. And when the fish wiggles out of the bag and escapes back into the sea, that is the meeting point. That's when you will find this teacher of yours, right? So the story in Surah Al-Kahf, begins وَإِذْ قَالَ مُوسَى لِفَتَاهُ لَا أَبْرَحُ حَتَّى أَبْلُغَ مَجْمَعَ الْبَحْرَيْنِ أَوْ أَمْضِيَ حُقُبًا. I am so intrigued by this lesson from the Lord that I will never stop until I reach my destination at the juncture of the two seas, even if it takes me untold years. Musa alayhi salam said with incredible enthusiasm, right? So he walked all that distance with his servant, right, with his assistant. And when they arrived at the sea, the assistant caught a fish, put it in the bag, and then they carried it with them, okay? They arrived at the juncture of the two seas, of the two gulfs, and there was this massive rock. They waited and waited and waited, nothing happened, so they fell asleep. And while they were asleep, you guys know the story, the fish, wiggled its way out of the bag and, kind of dug its way into the sand, threw the sand into the sea, and just disappeared into thin air. They woke up in the morning, they did not realize that they lost the fish. So they picked up their stuff, they walked, and after a distance, Musa alayhi salam asked his servant to basically make a little breakfast. The servant is looking into the bags of their food and provisions and stuff like that. Oh my God, the fish is gone. And Musa alayhi salam said, that is my sign right there. So they basically walk back to where they thought that they lost the fish, and there they found him. Abdan min ibadina, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, a worshipper of mine, a servant of mine, a soldier of mine, an agent of mine. It's not just you, Musa. right? I have all kinds of untold agents and untold soldiers and unknown workers that do stuff for me all over the world, all over the universe. Who are you to make a judgment like that? See, every step of the way we're learning something here. عبدا من عبادنا آتيناه رحمة من عندنا وعلمناه من لدنا علما. We have endowed him with mercy from God, and we have imparted unto him God's knowledge, or a part of God, or knowledge that comes directly from God. Whew. Both rahmah and ilm. And in 1 second or a few seconds, I will tell you why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala used them in that order. Rahmah, right? Mercy, compassion, followed by ilm, knowledge. Okay? And both come from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Rahmatan min indina wa 'allamnahu min ladunna ilma. So Musa alayhi salam, in the humility of a student, I told you, it was not arrogance that drove him, right? He could have said, you are the one that God wants me to study with. He said, I would like to study with you. I would like to learn from you. I would like to become your student and follow you everywhere. He said, basically, I'm going to show you stuff that will get under your skin. I will show you things that will drive you crazy. I will push you to the edge. I will test the limits of your intellect, but I don't want you to say a single word. And the thing is about Khidr alayhi salam is that his method of teaching was not the usual method either. It's not, let's sit down in a halaqah and I will tell you about all of it, right? No. It's like the interactive method where he doesn't say a single word. You follow me and you swallow your tongue. You don't say a single word and you just observe what I'm doing. Right? Incredible. Incredible. A tremendous test to Musa alayhi salam, and a tremendous test for us as well, because sometimes we are a little bit full of ourselves and a little bit arrogant, right? To accept knowledge and learning from people that we assume are beneath us, okay? And it so often happens that parents learn from their children, that teachers learn from their students. Never underestimate any source of knowledge. You never know where the wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will come to you, right? And so he basically said, I will allow you to become my student, right? On one condition, that you don't say a single word, and you have to give me your promise right now. I said, I promise, absolutely. You're not going to hear anything from me, right? So he followed him, and you guys know the story, right? 3 things happened on that trip, right? Number 1, they hitched a ride on a vessel, on a ship. And the captain of the ship was gracious enough to basically allow them to board the ship. But when the captain and the crew were not looking, what does Al-Khidr do, right? He gets a lever and he basically removes a plank from the hull of the ship, creating this defect, this hole that is basically allowing water to come in, but it's not big enough for the ship to sink, but it is big enough for the ship to have an issue, and now they actually need to basically sail back to the shore, okay? Of course, Musa alayhi salam was like, man, what is wrong with you? These people were good for us. Why would you do that? So Al-Khidr turns his face and said, what did we agree upon before we started this journey? You wanted to be my student, right? You know what? I'm so sorry. I'm stepping the boundaries. I'm not going to say anything, right? Next stop, they see little kids playing together. So Al-Khidr lures one of those children, I don't know, with candy or whatever, right? And he takes him to the side, and according to some of the scholars, he smothered him, right? He smothered him to death, right? He took the life of the child, okay? And that's when Musa alayhi salam lost him. What is wrong with you? He said, what did we say earlier before we started this trip together? What did you promise me? So Musa alayhi salam had to swallow his pride, and he said, you know what? Okay, I'm sorry. If I said anything again, we're just going to part ways, right? It's probably reaching, his wits' ends anyway. And then the third stop is that they go into this village and they seek food, they seek provision. Everybody refuses to give him anything. But on their way out, he saw that, there's a garden that belongs to those 2 boys. And basically he repaired the wall, and the fence of that garden. And Musa alayhi salam says, what is wrong with you, man? we should ask for compensation. And that's when Khidr said that it's هذا فراق بيني وبينك. This is basically where we part ways. So I want you to follow, the Musa's responses. So the first one, not a very severe offense kind of thing. So Musa alayhi salam says, man, what is wrong with you? The second, what is wrong with you? Right? The third one, what is wrong with you? Like, it's depending on the situation. Musa alayhi salam responds, but we could tell that he's reaching his end, that he's reaching his limit, right, so to speak. And of course, we know the interpretation of everything that happened here, right? There was this really bad king that was going around confiscating, good ships in a healthy condition, and so he damaged the ship so that the king, ignores that ship and goes to take other ships, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to protect the owners of that ship, right? The child belonged to two really good parents, and that child was going to become a tyrant when he grows up and hurt his parents. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decided that I want to take the soul of this child, cause this child to come to me in the afterlife, and I will compensate them, give them another child that will be a blessing for them, right? And the third one is the two boys, their father was a righteous man, and he had a treasure chest hidden underneath. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted Al-Khidr to rebuild the fence in order to protect the chest, so that when they grow up, they're able to find their own treasure and live a good life. There was a legitimate explanation every single time. The only difference here is that, and I want you to pay attention to this, if those events were happening in our lives without Al-Khidr, people of faith would just say, well, this is Allah's wisdom and we don't understand it, right? The only reason we got a little bit squeamish and we got a little upset and Musa alayhi salam was offended is because there is that human agent that is involved in the process. Otherwise, without Al-Khidr, this would be the work of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we don't, people of faith that is, we don't ask ourselves what the wisdom is, we just accept it and we say Alhamdulillah. What is happening here, brothers and sisters? Essentially, Musa alayhi salam, as I said earlier, represents all of us. He represents the average human being who relies so heavily on the mind, on the human mind, on his aql. And he relies on his rationality, he relies on his reason, he does induction and deduction, he observes the physical world, and he makes his judgment accordingly, right? Al-Khidr alayhi salam is a symbol. He symbolizes the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The qadr of Allah that sometimes defies logic, sometimes defies rationality, sometimes becomes inexplicable, sometimes does not sit well with us, sometimes offends us, and it totally goes against our intellect. It goes against common sense, right? What Musa alayhi salam represents is the ambition of the human mind, and what Al-Khidr represents is the limitations of the human mind. What Musa alayhi salam represents is alam al-shahadah, this observed life of the world, and what Khidr alayhi salam represents is alamul ghayb, the world that resides beyond the perception of man. Tonight's message from the divine, brothers and sisters, is a message to the human mind. And we see this ayah in Surah At-Tawbah, ayah number 105, very beautiful ayah that many of us memorize, and that is the message from the divine tonight to our minds. What does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say? أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وقل اعملوا فسيرى الله عملكم ورسوله والمؤمنون ثم تردون إلى عالم الغيب والشهادة فينبئكم بما كنتم تعملون. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, ayah number 105, Surah At-Tawbah, says to all of us, put the effort, labor, exert as much as possible. Allah, the Messenger, and the believers will see the fruit of your labor in the life of this world. But it is only on the day of judgment. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the one that owns the world of shahada, the worlds of the things we can see and process with our senses, and He is also the owner of the world of the unseen that rests and resides beyond our perception, is the one that will clarify to you the true meaning of your labors. What are these riddles? What is it that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us in this incredible ayah, brothers and sisters? The message from the divine is this. It's very simple. It's to the human mind. It is to your aql, right? i'malu. Use your aql. Put your efforts. Try to build a civilization on this earth. Cooperate with each other as human beings. Become my khulafa. Become my trustees. Take care of your families. Come up with inventions. Try to subjugate nature to your own favor, right? Establish more theories. Produce more crops to feed the hungry. Use science and technology to the absolute limit, right? Allah will be happy with you. The Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam will be happy with you. And the righteous in this world will be happy with you, right? But it is only on the day of judgment. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the one that owns this world, the world that we can see and process with our senses, and He's also the one that owns the other world, alamul ghayb, the world of the unseen. He is the one that will tell you where you fit in the bigger puzzle. Where your piece fit in the bigger puzzle of the universe. The wisdom behind the happenings and the occurrences and the things that came your way and confused you and made you feel upset and made you feel disappointed and made you feel frustrated. Only on the day of judgment that the secrets will be revealed. In the life of this world, use the human mind until you hit the limit of the human mind. And what is the limit of the human mind? The limit of the human mind is that boundary between alam al-ghayb and alam al-shahadah. Alam al-shahadah, shahada is what I can witness, what I can see, what I can testify with my own hands and touch with my senses, right? Alam al-ghayb is what resides beyond my perception. And brothers and sisters, I'm not exaggerating if I told you that alam al-shahadah is a very, very small fraction of alam al-ghayb. The life of the world with all of our knowledge, with all of our science, with everything that we've ever discovered or will ever discover is a very, very small fraction compared to the absolute truth of the world, including alam al-ghayb. That is the message from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to us. Use your mind, but never allow your mind to be the end of all things. Utilize the faculties, the intellectual faculties that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has granted you, but do not worship your own mind as your ilah. Your mind is not your deity. Your mind is a small utility. And like every other utility, it is incredibly, incredibly limited. Imam Abu Hamid Ghazali talks to us about maqasid al-shar', the purposes of Islamic law. Islamic law came to the world in order to preserve 5 things. حفظ النفس, حفظ العقل, حفظ الدين, حفظ المال, and حفظ النسل. The first one is the preservation of life, the preservation of the mind, the intellect, the preservation حفظ العقل, الحفظ المال, the preservation of wealth, the preservation of offspring, right? The preservation of the deen, preservation of faith in people's hearts, right? And I want to talk about the preservation of aql, حفظ العقل, right? Islam instituted all types of methods in order to protect the human mind, right? We are not supposed to get intoxicated. We are not supposed to drink alcohol. We're not supposed to do drugs. We're not supposed to take in any substance that would basically mar the mind or blind or taint the consciousness of the mind, right? On the other hand, we are encouraged to think. We're encouraged to ponder. We're encouraged to do tafakkur and contemplation, right? Incredible. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells you that your mind is so incredibly important. It is so absolutely incredibly important, right? But it is not the end of all things. And what fascinates me, and I will end with this, what fascinates me is that the word aql was never mentioned in the Quran. Here's your kicker. The word aql, the noun, was never mentioned in the Quran. You know what was mentioned in the Quran? The verb derivative of it. Ya'qil and ya'qilun. Why the verb? Because aql has a noun in general has a tendency to become an end in and of itself, to become a rotten idol. Whereas a verb involves an interactive process, a renewable process, a negotiated process. And as any action in human existence, every action has its own limitation. You see the wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? I told you, one of the most incredibly layered stories in the Quran. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we use our minds and our intellects to serve Allah, to serve the deen, to serve each other. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we are never, ever, ever overtaken by our minds, thinking that our intelligence and our wits and our cleverness is the end of all things. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we never take our own minds as our hawa, as our whims, as our gods. Allahumma ameen. Jazakumullahu khairan, brothers and sisters, for tuning in. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you. I want to give you a very important and very exciting fundraising update tonight, inshallah. But before I do that, just a dua request. Our beloved brother Hasnain Ali, his aunt passed away in Pakistan. Really good brother, great family. We love you guys all, and we are praying for you. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept your aunt in the highest level of Jannah, to protect you and your family members from ailments, and to make this the last of sorrows in your family. Allahumma ameen. Let me give you the fundraising update, inshallah. I will come back to the announcements with the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the last 10 nights, you guys, and we still have a few days before the end of Ramadan, but we have, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, reached $382,000. Alhamdulillah. $382,000, which means that all we need, inshallah, to be able to achieve our goal this Ramadan is an additional $118,000. 118, you guys. It's just incredible. I've always known that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would not let us down, but you guys have been amazing this year. I'm telling you, this is unprecedented. History is going to write about you guys as a community. I'm grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for everything you've done so far. So again, follow the links. I know that many of you are waiting for Laylatul Qadr. It's okay. That's fine. Many of you are waiting for the last 10 nights. We're already in the last 10 nights. So follow the Venmo link. Follow the Stripe link. Make your contribution. Send the check. Just text me and say, Imam, I would like to pledge in Ramadan this amount, but I will pay it over the next 5 months, for example, right? So it doesn't matter. Do what you can, inshallah. Do your part. All these blessings that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is sending to our community is because of Allah's grace first and foremost, and because of your hard work, your commitment, your resilience, your tenacity, and your discipline as a community. I'm really proud of you guys. $118,000 left. I promised you at the beginning of Ramadan, inshallah, that we will meet our target, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not going to let us down. A sister who is very recently married, only 2 months, and she has a son, a 7-year-old son, possibly from a previous marriage. She was diagnosed recently with a stage 4 stomach cancer, and it's already spread in her body. Her family is obviously devastated, and they're asking us to pray for her. I ask Allah to remove every ounce, every cell of cancer from her body, and for her to become a miracle that will testify to Allah's power and strength amongst all of us. Allahumma ameen. And I want you to remember all of our brothers and sisters that are suffering from any illness or ailment. I ask Allah to give them all shifa, full healing from His rahmah, from His maghfirah in these beautiful nights of Ramadan, and to bring them back to their family safe and sound. Allahumma ameen. Light in the midst of darkness, a sisters only qiyam this coming Saturday, inshallah, the day after tomorrow, starts at 11:30 p.m. and ends at 1:30 a.m. And there is a link in the comments for you guys, inshallah, to register. Again, this is a sisters only qiyam event. And we have a really special Laylatul Qadr program planned for you this on Tuesday, inshallah, May 19th. Again, a khatira at 9 p.m. We might make it like 9:05, 9:07, just push it a little bit. But we are going to be live at 9, inshallah. I know that it's getting a little bit tighter between iftar and our khatira. So 9, inshallah, we start the khatira. At 12, I want you guys to check in with us again for the mutual dua. So you need to submit your duas in advance. And also, we would like for you guys to join us back at 2:30 a.m. inshallah for dua al-qunut. In between, you're going to be doing your own ibadah, your own acts of worship, inshallah, at home with your families. Join us on our Eid, inshallah, drive-through special celebration at our new Foothills facility on 10031 Foothills Boulevard. This is, inshallah, Sunday, May 24th. So a week from this coming Sunday, inshallah, and we start at 9 a.m. If you have not given your zakah yet, please use the link, inshallah ta'ala, in this video to give your zakah Jazakumullahu khairan for tuning in. Please remember me in your dua. And if you guys think that I look better in the light-colored thobe, please send me a message, because we're having a bit of a disagreement about the color schemes here. So I could use some ideas from you, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair again for being such a wonderful community. I love each and every one of you in a way that is only inspired by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His love. Thank you for your support, for your du'as, for being there with us and for us every step of the way. And I'm looking forward, inshallah, to celebrate with you on our Eid meeting, our target this Ramadan. Thank you guys. Jazakumullah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.